Candidate for Congress in Tennessee's 5th District, who has President Trump's complete and total endorsement, Morgan Ortagus. Morgan, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on. President Zelensky has been urging and urging again for Biden to come visit the war-torn country. This is a week after UK President Boris Johnson met with him and walked the streets, saw firsthand what was happening, is now considered, a hotbed of terror and destruction, as we're watching unravel every day, Morgan. President Biden has said he has no plans to go there. Meantime, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is saying Russia may have not invaded Ukraine at all if President Biden had sent arms sooner. Take a look.
Really needs to happen is Ukraine is not asking for American men and women to fight. All they're asking for is the weapons to defend themselves. If we would have taken those actions earlier instead of waiting till after Russia invaded, they probably never would have invaded had we done that sooner.
So clearly, you have a lot to say and know in this department, as seen in the last administration. Do you agree with that statement? If we acted sooner, would this invasion be as bad as it is today?
Well, yes, that's absolutely right. But I think it's not just about acting sooner. That's certainly incredibly important. But what has to happen is there has to be credibility behind the man or woman in the office of the presidency, where what they say, the world knows that they mean business. And with President Trump, that's what we got. And so that's why whenever President Trump, would say to Vladimir Putin or whomever the dictator may be, no, don't do X, don't do Y, don't do Z. The whole world knew that Trump had done a series of actions over 4 years that lended credibility to those words. So I totally agree and had been arguing all of last year that there was a number of things that we should have been doing in order to prevent Russia from ever entering Ukraine and in order to help the Ukrainians. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how many actions you take. If the person on the other side of the debate, if the person on the other side of the fight doesn't believe that the U.S. president has the credibility to back up what he's saying, then it doesn't matter what actions you do because they're just not believable.
Well, sure. So we have the timeliness of all of this, but then we have Biden, making statements maybe a day too late, calling it a genocide. How does that look from your point of view?
So, whenever a president calls something a genocide, it doesn't have a political meaning. It doesn't have a political connotation. And what you saw was President Biden said that in an off-the-cuff remark, and his team then started walking it back. Now, remember that President Trump did declare a genocide in China, in Xinjiang, because the Chinese Communist Party are going after and annihilating, attempting to wipe out the Uyghur minorities there. But that was I would say a good 2 years of the Trump State Department, Mike Pompeo, all of us doing a ton of research to make sure that we could back up that claim. So there's a big difference between when President Trump did it. That was 2 years of research and being able to certify legally that it's a genocide. And that's why you saw even the Biden administration agreed with us when they came in. But again, you had another issue with Biden where he speaks off the cuff at a press conference about something that has a political and legal connotation that I'm not sure that Biden's team was prepared to back up.
I totally agree. When we look at the war between Zelensky and Putin, do you think Putin thinks that he's winning this thing? He wants to kill innocent civilians. We saw that. It's a success. And then we look at the buildings and homes. And we do know now that they've taken Ukrainians stray away there and repatriated them to Russia. That could be a huge bargaining trip down the road.
Yeah, that's a really excellent question because it really gets down to defining what winning means, right? Because you don't see modern warfare sort of being, at the end of World War II or another war where there's a signing ceremony and one side formally acquiesces. You really don't see that in modern warfare anymore. So for Putin, I think in some ways he has gained and in some ways he's failed. Clearly militarily, this did not happen as quickly as he thought he was going to. And I think that Putin thought he was going to be able to take Kyiv. He has not been able to do that. However, the East is incredibly important to him, the Donbass region. That's what he's targeting and going after. It looks like it's quite possible in the next few days that Mariupol might fall. That's a city that he has utterly decimated. And so he has not won by taking over the entire territory of Ukraine, but he may be able to capture key cities and key areas that are crucial to his own national interest. I would also say a place where the United States has and our allies have not done well is that this war is actually very popular at home for Putin. You're not seeing the dissident. You're not seeing, even whenever, with the major ship that sank last week, you're not seeing widows or people, mothers getting on Russian television and decrying Putin and being angry at him. From an internal perspective, Putin has been able to keep the Russians on his side. They have rallied around their flag. And so that's where I think the United States and our allies, where we have failed at reaching the Russian people to make them understand the cost of this war that Putin is implementing it. And I don't think that we've won there. I think he's won the game internally in his own home.
That's a different and interesting perspective. Morgan, thanks for sharing that with us. Like you said, Donbass, we'll be looking out for it. They say that there's a battle brewing there, so we'll keep an eye on that. Morgan, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you.